ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवते सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनि नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हरे कृष्ण। So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 13th chapter, 38th shloka. Atha jagam bhagavan Narada sah tumburah pratyuthayabhivadyaha sanujo abhayarchayanmunim.
Sanujo Bhyachayanmunim.
So I'll read translation. While Sanjay was thus speaking, Sri Narad, the powerful devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene carrying his tumburo. Maharaj Yudhishthir and his brothers received him properly by getting up from their seats and offering obeisances. Purport. Devrishi Narad is described herein as Bhagavan due to his being the most confidential devotee of the Lord. The Lord and his very confidential devotees are treated on the same level by those who are actually engaged in loving service of the Lord. Such confidential devotees of the Lord are very much dear to the Lord because they travel everywhere to preach the glories of the Lord in different capacities and try their utmost to convert the non-devotees of the Lord into devotees in order to bring them to the platform of sanity. Actually, a living being cannot be a devotee of the Lord. Actually, living being cannot be a non-devotee of the Lord because of his constitutional position. But when one becomes a non-devotee or non-believer, it is to be understood that the person concerned is not in a sound condition of life. The confidential devotees of the Lord treat such illusioned living beings. One second. Sorry about that. The confidential devotees of the Lord treat such illusioned living beings and therefore they are most pleasing in the eyes of the Lord. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that no one is dearer to him than one who actually preaches the glories of the Lord to convert the non-believers and non-devotees. Such personalities as Narad must be offered all due respects, like those offered to the personality of Godhead himself. And Maharaj Yudhishthir, along with the noble brothers, were examples for others in receiving a pure devotee of the Lord like Narad, who had no other business save and except singing the glories of the Lord along with his veena, a musical instrument, stringed instrument. Hare Krishna. So Sanjay was thus speaking, and Narad Muni came. So Sanjay is the associate or assistant of Dhritarashtra, right? And Narad Muni came there and they are addressing now, welcoming. And Narad Muni is being addressed as Bhagavan. Prabhupada is here explaining how Bhagavan is a word used for Lord or his confidential devotees. So therefore, sometimes people have the misconception, they misunderstand this, and they call anyone Bhagavan, even the demigods. but actually this is reserved for the Lord as well as confidential devotees. So it doesn't mean even the devotee will be same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, not as a person, but because he is surrendered to the Supreme Lord, so he is given the same respect. Just like, for example, a police inspector, he comes to you, you give him the same respect as you give to the government of America, because he's representing the government for us, right? So similarly, pure devotee, he's actually representing the whole Godhead to us. And such devotees, they are very dear to the Lord, and they're preaching the glories. And in the 18th chapter Bhagavad Gita, it is said how such a person is most dear to the Lord, and no one will be more dear than that person who is actually spreading the glories of the Lord. So this is something which is very pertinent, that glories of the Lord are to be spread, and heart transformation have to happen for the people. This is actually important in every single religion, but unfortunately this is misinterpreted, and they who are trying to convert forcefully or by killing or whatever they are doing, they are thinking that just by superficially changing someone's religion is what is the meaning of this, which is very, very wrong. Here the transformation of the heart is what is needed. So therefore these things are very clear in the Vedic culture or the Vedic literature, but some of the non-Vedic Abrahamic religions, they misinterpret it. So this is very pertinent to be mentioned here. And Narad Muni, he is always chanting the glories of the Lord, and he is playing musical instruments. That means, very much the kirtan which we are doing and singing the glories of the Lord is not something new, but has been going on since the time of Narad Muni. Okay, I'll stop here. Anybody else would like to share any points from this? Any volunteers who would like to read the next one? Okay, Anand Kushri will read.
Yudhishthira Uvacha.
Yudhishthira Vacha.
Naham Vedagatim Pitrur.
Naham
Vedagatim Pitrur.
Bhagavan Kvagatavitah.
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Kvagatavitah.
Kvagatavitah.
Ambavahata Putrata.
Ambavahata Putrata.
Putratva.
Kvagata Cha Tapasvini.
Kvagata
Kvagata cha tapasvini.
Maharaj Yudhishthir said, O godly personality, I do not know where my two uncles have gone, nor can I find my ascetic aunt who is grief-stricken by the loss of all her sons. Purport. Maharaj Yudhishthir, as a good soul and devotee of the Lord, was always conscious of the great loss of his aunt and her sufferings as an ascetic. An ascetic is never disturbed by all kinds of sufferings, and that makes him strong and determined on the path of spiritual progress. Queen Gandhari is a typical example of an ascetic because of her marvelous character in many trying situations. She was an ideal woman as mother, wife, and ascetic. And in the history of the world, such character in a woman is rarely found. Hare Krishna. So in this purport, Prabhupada is explaining the qualities of Gandhari. So she, of course, we can go into a lot more detail from Mahabharata about her life story, but as we know, she was a very chaste wife, because when she found out that her husband is blind, she had blindfolded herself throughout her life, except for that part where she tries to help out Duryodhan during the war. So she was in a way an ascetic or a tapasvini, as it is mentioned in this purport, and she was never disturbed by various kinds of suffering, and she also had many trying situations. Maybe Abhiram Gopal Prabhu or those who are more well versed in Mahabharata can explain some of her trying situations. I can't think of any actually. Many trying situations she went through. So, but otherwise, her character in the Mahabharata was as an ideal woman, mother, wife, and ascetic. And rarely we can find such examples. Hare Krishna. Anybody knows what kind of trying situations Mother Gandhari went through?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, what I do recall is like she was always the one who was the sound of reason and the righteous path for and trying to teach Dhritarashtra the right things to do, and she also always wanted to she was the one who was criticizing the wrong acts of her own brother, that is Shakuni, and was not in the favor of Shakuni even staying over there in Kurukshetra, in Hastinapur, sorry. So she was very dear to Queen Kunti, and she always spoke up for the Pandavas and their rights and the rights of Kunti Maharani, and she was always criticizing Duryodhan whenever he had his wrong plans and whatever. So she always used to criticize him. So otherwise, if let's say she would not have criticized, then she would not have been an ideal mother. Unfortunately, she was not able to, whichever the plan was such from Krishna, and and the demoniac mentality was so much of the Duryodhan that she could not rectify it. But from her standpoint, from as a mother, she always used to chastise and be. She was always, putting Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan as much as possible on the right path. And the suffering for her, the greatest suffering for her throughout, at least, was always that that despite all her efforts, everything kept happening in the wrong direction, which was very hurtful to her, as the queen of Hastinapur, and under with her being the queen also, and she was a devotee of. She was used to believe in God also very you know and then I think she used to follow Lord Shiva and used to do a lot of tapasya for Lord Shiva. So that's why she had all the ascetic strength and from all her tapasya. So that's what I remember about her from Mahabharata. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for explaining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have always had a couple of questions about her. I'll please see if you think you can answer. So, and this is what I've heard in the Amoglila Prabhu's Mahabharata. So, you know how after she got married, or I think even before marriage, once she realized that she was getting married to a blind king, she also put the blindfold on her eyes to follow her husband. But in that lecture, Brahmoglila Prabhu was criticizing this act, that actually she should have been very alert and active. She should never have blindfolded herself. She should have kept instead of 2 eyes, 4 eyes, because if there is a weakness in your spouse, you want to be the strength, not create further weakness. Because if she had been alert and to her son's actions and not put a blindfold, she might have been able to guide them better on the righteous path. But instead, she just followed her husband and became physically blind herself, even though this could have been her strength, which was her husband's weakness. Whereas a lot of times, this putting blindfold is considered her austerity, which gave her a lot of strength as well. So how which way should we see it, Mataji? Especially in like modern times, the relationship is very different between husband and wife, so that one is supposed to be the strength of other, not become the weakness. Both should complement each other. If one is lacking something, then the other should try to make up. So how should we see this, Mataji? Will you elaborate?
Hare Krishna, Madhavi, thank you. Nice question. Actually, as soon as you said a Moglila Prabhu lecture, I told Anand Kishori what your question would be because I also remember from that lecture.
Yeah, that's because you're so intelligent and knowledgeable. So
no, not intelligent.
You can read our mind.
Because when he mentioned that, at that time I was also thinking that interesting perspective Prabhuji shared. Okay. When you read the scriptures or read what Prabhupada is mentioning, I have not read, honestly speaking, the point which he mentioned in Prabhupada's books. And many times Prabhupada has actually glorified Gandhari, even though she is not even, like Nirvay Prabhu was mentioning, she's not even a Krishna devotee, quote unquote, right? She is being more of a like Lord Shiva devotee, although she is actually not against Krishna. She also respected Krishna very much and was very, from her character and everything, she was very much, worshipping Krishna in one way. But at the same time, Prabhupada glorifies her throughout. So sometimes we have to see that same particular situation, there are different lessons are taught, and sometimes the lessons can be even opposing lessons. I'll give you another example. Like people, you may have heard this, that Mother Sita, even though she's not a jiva, she's an ideal, example of how a wife should be or how a devotee should be towards the Lord. So that is the kind of example she is setting, Mother Sita. But the pastime where Sita is seeing the golden deer, that example is sometimes used to teach that when jiva looks externally outside, that means giving up the Lord. At that time is the beginning of his or her separation from the Lord. So now one can say, why is Mother Sita is being used as a jiva? So she's not being used as a jiva. This is an example which is being mentioned. So similarly, the way I understood was that is also a correct perspective, that could have been done. But at the same time, what she did, depending upon her um, um, you know जिसको कहते हैं कि अपनी भावना से, with her own way, how she dealt with situation, that is not really criticized for the most part in my reading. So I will say that it is time, place, and circumstance. Different devotees can do service in different ways in the same situation. And depending upon how we can serve Krishna best, that should be the goal of one's approach. When it is described in modern age, it is not so much on how things have changed. So what is our role? The idea is how we can serve Krishna best. And serving Krishna best may sometimes include taking humble position in a way in which you may have to be subservient. And sometimes it may mean taking a bold position where in the same mood of humility, you have to speak out loud and clear and actually guide. So we see the examples of many in the scriptures where at the right time, the wife, for example, is actually guiding and helping the husband in making so many decisions. For example, Kunti Maharani and Pandu, their example itself, Pandu wanted more and more children, and Kunti Maharani, she was, basically guiding Pandu from time to time and telling, no, this is 3 is enough. No, not more than that. I cannot call anymore demigods. But even other places, she spoke. And we see so many other instances where actually the Krishna conscious devotees, they're very intelligent, they're trained. So Mother Kunti is speaking such beautiful prayers and conclusion of the scriptures because she was trained from the childhood also, being in a family of devotees. So at the end of the day, what matters is how we can please Krishna the best. And 2 different devotees in the same situation can do 2 different things and both may be correct. One time Prabhupada was asked that, Prabhupada, this is how we should deal with the situation boldly and go out and do this. And Prabhupada said, yes, we should. So then they were like saying, but the temple president, he's not doing. So then Prabhupada said, yes, we should do that. But our Giriraj Maharaj, he is not like that. So he was not criticizing, actually, he was appreciating, and he was saying that how in his particular way of service and mood of service being different, it is totally okay the way he is conducting himself. So different devotees may deal with that situation in different ways. So this is my understanding, Mataji. Please, Nirvay Prabhu, you can share more, or Natasha Mataji, you can share more. I'm sure you have some insight as well.
Ne Prabhuji, thank you so much. I just had not heard that aspect that Moglila Prabhu mentioned. So thank you for sharing. It seems like a lot of times in Mahabharata, it seems like the vow was taken sort of emotionally by some of the people, and then later on it did not help them in dharma, in carrying out Krishna conscious activities sometimes. But that was the whole pastime. I think that was how it was arranged.
Exactly. That's what I was going to come to, that this is all facilitating a bigger plan of the Lord in which Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. And we can all, learn from that. So even though those situations, let's say if Amoglila Prabhu's perspective we take. So that would be a, understandable perspective, but we can say that how this particular situation was arranged by the will of Supreme Lord, so that this whole Leela and pastime could continue and happen.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. But I don't think Prabhupada has specifically mentioned that it being a wrong thing, what she did. So we can't necessarily, just see it from one perspective.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I actually had another question now that we are talking about this. And I haven't read about that pastime anywhere else, but I don't know if Prabhuji, if you have heard, I read it, I heard it somewhere that at the end of the war, when all the dead bodies were there, Amoglila Prabhu's Mahabharata only mentioned it, I think, his commentary on it, that at the end of the war, and I'm not sure it was during Mahabharata or during another lecture where he mentioned, but basically at the time of end of Mahabharata, when the dead bodies were lying there, Gandhari went there and she was very hungry and she saw a mango tree, and then she just got some stuff to climb on it to get the mango, and then she was eating the mango, and then later Krishna comes, and when it's light, she sees actually she's standing on the dead body of all the dead Guru, her sons. So this was one of the eye-opening thing, that these are just bodies, and something like that.
So this was right after she cursed Krishna, that how the whole Yadu dynasty will be finished. And right after that, she went to visit the Kurukshetra where the battle was fought, and to visit the bodies of her sons. And she was crying the whole day, and then the dusk came, and she got very hungry in the night and saw this tree and found something to climb on, and she kept climbing on it until she reached the mangoes and started eating the mangoes. When the sunlight came, she saw that she was sitting on top of all the 100 bodies of her sons, piled one on top of each other. And Krishna came and showed her, look, this is what you cursed me for. These are can't remember what the conclusion he drew was, that this is just mundane things that you're lamenting for, and something like that. But yeah, this was also in the Mahabharata.
So sometimes, when we hear lectures, I try to focus more on the conclusion of the thing, because sometimes things can appear to be more dramatic, just because of perception discrepancies and stuff. So I've never heard this. Maybe I missed. I probably didn't hear Prabhuji's Mahabharata cover to cover or the lectures. So I did not remember hearing any such thing. But even if something like that would be spoken, I would probably not take a great big notice of it, because if there is a lesson to it, I can probably relate and try to understand based upon what I've heard. But otherwise, if you're expecting me to clarify the specifics of the pastime, I'm not too sure.
Okay, yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Sometimes, like things are more obvious. When Prabhuji was once talking about another devotee, Subudhi Rai, who was some water from a Muslim spot was thrown on him, and he he lost his Brahman position or whatever. And then when he went to different people to ask, sometimes Prabhuji will say, oh, one Brahman told him the solution is very easy. Take some harpic, drink all the harpic, or cut your body, put a little harpic on it. So sometimes, the exaggeration is or the funny thing is very obvious. Sometimes it may be a little subtle, and it may be hard for us to understand what are the things. But main thing in his lecture is to focus on the conclusion. So
Prabhuji, the reason we brought this up is, so how should we perceive Dhritarashtra and Gandhari as devotees? The reason I'm asking if
so
she's...
generally Dhritarashtra is considered someone who should not be followed. That is how Prabhupada has mentioned in his purports and even the scriptures, because of his attachment. So Dhritarashtra, because of his attachment, he is someone whom we always see how we can learn from, not to do things. And Gandhari invariably has been portrayed or presented as someone who has had much better knowledge than Dhritarashtra of the situation, and she was chaste, and she was more of a devotee, and she is guiding his family members and everyone, but still they are not listening. So she is someone whom we can learn from, and Dhritarashtra, we can learn what not to do, whatever Dhritarashtra did. So that's how in my readings and my listening of lectures, I have seen these things, and it makes sense to me seeing like this. But different devotees or different people, we can learn different things also.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Appreciate
it. Thank you. Now, we never hear Gandhari being said to be like a pure devotee or a Mahajan. That comparison we have never seen, so we don't recommend that part. But she is glorified for what she did, basically. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Anybody else would like to make any points from this? Okay, who would like to?
Okay, I just want to.
Yes, Maya, go ahead.
Ask one question. Suppose if she would not have put the blindfold in her eye, and if she would have involved more with what was happening, you think then that Mahabharata wouldn't have happened, the fight wouldn't have happened, and
oh, if she wouldn't have put cloth in her eyes and covered it, then things may have happened a little differently. But according to Krishna's arrangement, Krishna wanted to happen in this particular way. So being insignificant jivas like us, we generally feel safe to conclude that Krishna's plan would be better than our plan. So if Krishna chose it to be in this way, then we just accept it in this way.
yeah.
Is that all right, Madhaji?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So who would like to read this one? 1:13:40. Who would like to recite the Sanskrit?
I can read.
Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Nirbhay Prabhu, you go ahead. And then Suresh Prabhu can do the next one.
Karnadharai vapare.
Karnadhari vapare.
Bhagwan paradarshakah.
Bhagwan paradarshakah.
Athab bhashe Bhagvana.
Athabhase Bhagavana.
Bhagwan Narado Muni Sattam.
Bhagwan Narado Muni Satam.
Translation. You are like a captain of a ship in a great ocean, and you can direct us to our destination. Thus addressed the godly personality, Devrishi Narad, greatest of the philosopher devotees, began to speak. Hare Krishna. purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Swami Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. There are different types of philosophers, and the greatest of all of them are those who have seen the personality of Godhead and have surrendered themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Among all such pure devotees of the Lord, Devrishi Narad is the chief, and therefore he has been described herein as the greatest of all philosopher devotees. Unless one has become a sufficiently learned philosopher by hearing the Vedanta philosophy from a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot be a learned philosopher devotee. One must be very faithful, learned, and renounced. Otherwise, one cannot be a pure devotee. A pure devotee of the Lord can give us direction towards the other end of nescience. Devrishi Narad used to visit the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthir because the Pandavas were all pure devotees of the Lord, and Devrishi was always ready to give them good counsel whenever needed. Hare Krishna. People. So, a lot of information is mentioned, good information is mentioned in the purport here. The translation is translation is actually more straightforward, that this context, what's happening is the Yudhishthira Maharaj has got to know that Dhritarashtra and Gandhari and Vidura have left. He asked Sanjay first, and now he is a little bewildered and a little bit sad that they have left, and they were under his care, and he was always taking good care of them. And he's a little perturbed that they have left and not happy. And then at that time, Devrishi Narad has come, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking for guidance from him, and is saying that you are like a captain of a ship in a great ocean, and you can direct us to our destination. So just like in a ocean, the captain of a ship is very important, because the captain can give direction as to, if there is a storm or something, then the captain is the one. If you're in an ocean, there's everything looks the same. You need somebody who's trained to guide that ship to the right destination. Otherwise, it will not be able to get to the right destination. And then, so being asked to humbly by Yudhishthira Maharaj, Narad Muni decides is giving good counsel that will be coming in the further shlokas. And the purport Prabhupada has described that there can be many philosophers, but the best philosophers are those who have actually seen the greatest personality of Godhead himself, Krishna himself, and have surrendered themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So have seen Lord and have surrendered in the service of the Lord. And later it is also said that seen also, if you are understanding the philosophy of Vedanta completely and following it and you learn it from the bona fide pattern, bona fide person, spiritual master, then only you can be the good philosopher and the devotee. And amongst all such devotees, the best is Lord Devrishi Narad. Of all the devotees of the Lord, best is Devrishi Narad, and that's why he was called even Bhagwan last time in few shlokas before, as he is one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, and pure devotees are sometimes mentioned like that. So thus he is the greatest philosopher devotee, unless we become sufficiently learned by hearing Vedanta philosophy, cannot be a learned philosopher devotee. So now, after that, Prabhupada is saying one must be very faithful, learned, and renounced. Otherwise, one cannot be pure devotee. So these are the quality. If we want to know somebody is pure devotee or not, we can check: are they very faithful? Are they learned? Did they learn through the bona fide spiritual master? And are they renounced? So these qualities you fulfill and they are known and understand the Vedanta philosophy can be pure devotee. Pure devotee of the Lord can give us direction towards the end of nescience. Nescience is this temporary world. So how can we reach the end of nescience? By getting to the spiritual world, and that is by the help of a pure devotee who can be like our captain in this ship. We call this Bhav Sagar, right? So the way that a captain can direct the ship in an ocean to the right destination, same way a pure devotee can guide us from this Bhav Sagar in the right direction to end this temporary, cycle of birth and death. So Devrishi Narad used to, and then he's mentioning that Narad Muni used to visit Maharaj Yudhishthira because Pandavas were all pure devotees of the Lord. So, all pure devotees of the Lord, they all, they all meet frequently to discuss about the Lord, to um, association of devotees is very important even at the highest level we see here, and the Devrishi was always ready to give them good counsel whenever needed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for reading and sharing. Anybody else would like to share anything from this? Okay, we'll go to the next shloka then. Who would like to read the translation, the Sanskrit? Okay, Suresh Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read. Are you able to hear him, right, Prabhuji? And tune, this is in same tune, Prabhuji, or a different tune, something like?
Ma Kanchana Shucho Rajan. Same tune.
Okay, same. Narad Uvacha
Narad Vacha.
Vacha
Ma Kanchan Sucho Rajan
Ma Kanchana Shucho Rajan.
Yadishwara Vansam Jagat
Yad Ishvara Vasham Jagat.
Jagat
Loka Sapal Yasme Yas Eme
Lokas Palaya.
Yeme
Vahanti Bali Mishuta
Vahanti Palemishitu.
Tasayukti Bhutani
Samyunkati Bhutani.
Sa eva Vyunakti Cha.
Sa eva Vyunakticha.
Translation. Sri Narad said, O pious king, do not lament for anyone, for everyone is under control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all living beings and their leaders carry on worship to be well protected. It is He only who brings them together and disperses them. Purport. Every living being, either in this material world or in the spiritual world, is under control of Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Beginning from Brahmaji, the leader of this universe, down to the insignificant ant, all are abiding by the order of Supreme Lord. Thus, the constitutional position of living being is subordination under the control of the Lord. The foolish living being, especially man, artificially rebels against the law of Supreme, and thus become chastised as an asura or the lawbreaker. A living being is placed in a particular position by the order of Supreme Lord, and he is again shifted from the place by the order of Supreme Lord or his authorized agents. Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Maharaj, Yudhishthir are in modern history Napoleon, Akbar, Alexandra, Gandhi, Subhas, and Nehru. All are servants of the Lord, and they are placed in and removed from their respective position by the supreme will of the Lord. None of them is independent. Even though such men or leaders rebels so as not to recognize the supremacy of the Lord, they are put under still more rigorous laws for the material world by the different miseries. Only the foolish man, therefore, says that there is no God. Maharaj Yudhishthir was being convinced of the Dhritarashtra was placed in the position according to his past deed. He had already suffered or enjoyed the benefits accrued to him in the past due to his good luck. Somehow or the other, he has a good younger brother, Vidura, and by his instruction, he left to achieve salvation by closing all accounts in the material world. Ordinarily, one cannot change the course of the one's due happiness and distress by plan. Everyone has to accept them as they come under the subtle arrangement of call or invincible time. There is no use trying to counteract them. The best thing is therefore that one should endeavor to achieve salvation, and pro- this prerogative is given only to man because of his developed condition of mental activities and intelligence. Only for man are there different Vedic instructions for the attainment of salvation during the human form of existence. One who misuses this opportunity of advanced intelligence is verily condemned and put into different types of miseries, either in this present life or in future. That is the way the Supreme controls everyone. Hare Krishna. The Maharaj, here the Narad Muni is explaining to Maharaj Yudhishthir that everything in this material world or in this whole universe uh, is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Krishna is controlling everything. Either it's a very small creature or a very big creature. It does not matter. Everything is, they are just the instruments they are playing according to the Krishna. Either they have given so many, either example of Brahma, Shiva, Indra, or anybody else in this Kali Yuga. Lord controls everyone, but only the important point over here is that only the foolish man who is not or who is covered with the Maya, they do not understand the real fact behind the scene. They understand they are the doer, but they are not the actual doer. It is the controlled by the Maya, and only the Krishna is doing behind the scene. So then again, it has been explained that Dhritarashtra got the position to become the uh, king of Indraprasth or King of Hastinapur because he had some past deed, some good karma, and he enjoyed the benefit of that. And maybe somehow it's related to Vidura because his younger brother, who has very good spiritual nature and spiritual activities, that's why it has been done. And in the next paragraph, it has been explained that the ordinary cannot change one's due happiness. I mean, we think that we are changing or we are getting happiness or distress or some miseries are coming in our life according to our karmic reactions. But that is ultimately the control by the Krishna itself. We cannot try to counteract. We cannot change it. This is to be happen. This is to be happen. Like the Mataji asked the question, like the Nirmala Mataji, if she might not cover her eyes, then situation might be different. But situation might be different, but the ultimate goal is still the same. That Mahabharat must be happen. That was the plan of Krishna. It might be some different route. So that is the thing here. It has been explained. We should not miss. I mean, the ultimate. Take home point from this paragraph. We should do the always the enhancement. I mean, to improve ourselves in the or do the progress in our spiritual life, spiritual progress in this life. Like the 2.40 Neha Bikram Nastasti means we must do some progress in this life. This is the advancement only intelligent people can do. Otherwise, people will fall, they will misuse or they will misunderstand and they will think they are the doer. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for reading and sharing. So I think we are all already towards the end of the session. So we'll quickly do Damodar Aarti.
No.
Is that okay?
No.
Anybody here who has not done Damodar Aarti for today? Yet? Everybody did Damodar Aarti already?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so if everybody did, then we can conclude. Because it's already close to 9. So if everybody has done Damodar Aarti, then we can conclude and we'll continue tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji. Do the Harinam.
Yes, we'll do 11 times Hare Krishna Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram. ग्रंथ राज श्रीमद् भागवतम की
Jai,
लीला प्रभुपाद की
Jai.
पांचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण।